Is it possible that someone you know is a victim of domestic abuse and you are not aware of it? Today, we're peeling back the curtain on a hidden epidemic that's affecting countless individuals around the globe. Domestic abuse, a term that stirs up feelings of discomfort, sorrow, and anger in most of us. This form of abuse is not confined to any one group or community. It permeates all societies, all economic statuses, and all types of relationships. It's an insidious problem that often goes unnoticed, like a silent scream echoing in a room full of noise. Why does it often go unnoticed, you might ask? Well, domestic abuse has a chameleon-like nature. It changes its form, subtly blending into the backdrop of normalcy. It's not always physical violence. It can be emotional, psychological, financial, or sexual. It's the constant fear, the systematic breakdown of one's self-esteem, the feeling of being trapped in a never-ending cycle of pain and despair. Now let's talk numbers. It's estimated that 1 in every 3 women worldwide will experience some form of domestic abuse in their lifetime. That's an alarming statistic, isn't it? Think about it. That could be your sister, your mother, your friend, or your colleague. And the most disheartening part is that these are only the reported cases. Countless victims remain silent, their pleas for help muffled by the walls of their own homes. The face of domestic abuse is not always bruised and battered. It's sometimes hidden behind a forced smile, a quick excuse, or a downcast gaze. It's an unseen epidemic, silently spreading its tendrils into the heart of our societies, leaving a trail of broken spirits in its wake. It's time for us to open our eyes and ears, to look beyond the surface, to listen to the unspoken words, and to recognize the signs of this silent epidemic. Because awareness is the first step towards change. So let's take that first step together, shall we? Domestic abuse is a silent epidemic often hidden behind closed doors. Did you know that 1 in 4 women will experience severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime? This is the chilling reality of domestic abuse. It's a global epidemic that transcends all social and economic boundaries, affecting millions of lives every day. The numbers are staggering. Every minute, 20 people are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States alone. That's more than 10 million women and men each year. Globally, an estimated 35% of women have experienced either physical and/or sexual intimate partner violence or non-partner sexual violence in their lifetime. But the impact of domestic abuse extends far beyond the physical. It's a deeply emotional and psychological issue that can leave scars that last a lifetime. Victims often suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. They live in constant fear, their self-esteem shattered, their sense of security destroyed. The cycle of abuse is also incredibly difficult to break. Many victims are financially dependent on their abusers. Trapped in a cycle of violence they feel they can't escape. Others may stay out of fear of retaliation or because they believe their abuser will change. Still others may not even recognize the signs of abuse, convinced that their experiences are just a normal part of a relationship. It's also worth noting that domestic abuse doesn't discriminate. It affects people of all ages, races, religions, and socio-economic backgrounds. It's a problem that can occur in any type of relationship, regardless of sexual orientation or marital status. It's a pervasive issue that often remains hidden, with many victims suffering in silence, too afraid or ashamed to seek help. But perhaps the most chilling fact of all is this: the majority of cases of domestic abuse go unreported. The silence surrounding this issue only serves to perpetuate the cycle of violence, allowing abusers to continue their behavior without consequence. These numbers are not just statistics, but represent real people suffering in silence. It's a sobering reminder of the urgent need to address this issue, to break the silence and end the cycle of domestic abuse once and for all. Can you imagine the trauma and long-term effects of living in fear of someone you love? This is the harsh reality for many victims of domestic abuse. The physical injuries may fade away, but the psychological scars often remain, invisible to the naked eye, but deeply felt by those who bear them. These invisible scars manifest in many ways. Victims of domestic abuse often live in a state of fear, a fear that is insidious and constant. It's present in every conversation, every interaction, every moment of quiet. It's the fear of saying the wrong thing, the fear of being not good enough, the fear of the next outburst. This fear can lead to a constant state of anxiety, a sense of always being on edge, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Depression is another common consequence of domestic abuse, The ongoing abuse can erode a person's sense of self-worth, leading to feelings of hopelessness, despair, and isolation. Victims may feel trapped in their situation, unable to see a way out, leading to a deep sadness that permeates every aspect of their lives. The psychological impact of domestic abuse can also create a myriad of other mental health issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder, panic attacks, and difficulties with trust and intimacy. These invisible scars can affect every aspect of a victim's life, from their relationships to their career, to their physical health. The psychological trauma of domestic abuse is a silent epidemic, often overlooked and underestimated. But just because these scars are invisible doesn't mean they aren't real. They are deeply felt, long-lasting, and can be just as damaging, if not more so, than the physical injuries. It's crucial to understand and acknowledge the profound psychological impact of domestic abuse. Recognizing these invisible scars is the first step towards healing, towards breaking the cycle of abuse. The psychological scars of domestic abuse can last a lifetime, long after the physical wounds have healed. But with awareness, support, and professional help, victims of domestic abuse can begin to heal these wounds, reclaim their lives, and move towards a future free of fear and violence. What can you do if you or someone you know is a victim of domestic abuse? This question is often the first step in the journey towards healing and recovery. Domestic abuse thrives in silence. It's in the hushed whispers, the unspoken pain, the secrets kept behind closed doors. It is a cycle that continues because too often victims suffer in silence, feeling isolated and alone. But let's be clear, the silence is not a refuge, but a prison. The key to freedom lies in breaking that silence. Breaking the silence is not just about speaking out against abuse, it's about saying enough and seeking help. It's about realizing that you're not alone in this struggle, and there's a whole network of support ready and willing to help you navigate this challenging journey. There are numerous resources available for victims of domestic abuse. These include hotlines, which provide immediate assistance and a listening ear at any hour of the day. These hotlines aren't just for emergencies. They're also there for anyone who just needs to talk, to break the silence, and to start the process of healing. Shelters are another crucial resource. They provide a safe haven for victims, away from the environment of abuse. They offer temporary housing, food, and often, a community of people who understand what you're going through. These shelters are more than just a place to stay. They are stepping stones on the path towards a life free from abuse. Counseling services, both individual and group, can also play a vital role in healing. Counselors trained in domestic abuse can provide the tools to understand and cope with trauma. They can help victims regain their sense of self, rebuild their lives, and move forward with strength and confidence. Each of these resources is a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the darkness. They are there to help victims break free from the cycle of abuse, to reclaim their lives, and to begin the journey towards healing and recovery. Remember, breaking the silence is the first step towards healing and recovery. It's not an easy step to take, but it's a necessary one. And remember, you don't have to take it alone. What role can you play in ending domestic abuse? It's a question that we may not ask ourselves often enough, but it is one that carries immense significance. Every single one of us has the power to make a difference, to shift the narrative, and to stand against domestic abuse. Firstly, we can support victims. It could be as simple as lending a listening ear, offering a comforting presence, or providing resources for professional help. We must remember that victims often feel isolated and overwhelmed. Showing empathy and understanding can help them regain a sense of control and hope. But our responsibility doesn't stop there. We must also strive to raise awareness about this issue that's often shrouded in silence. Talk about it, share information on social media, and engage in open discussions. By bringing this topic into the light, we help break down the stigma and shame that often surrounds domestic abuse. Furthermore, we can advocate for stronger laws and policies. Demand your local and national leaders to prioritize the safety and rights of victims. Support organizations that are fighting for change. Together we can push for a legal framework that holds perpetrators accountable and provides adequate protection for victims. Now you might be wondering, can I really make a difference? The answer is a resounding yes. Even the smallest action can have a ripple effect. Your voice can echo in the halls of power, your actions can inspire others, and your support can provide a lifeline for those in need. Remember, change is not the responsibility of a few, but the obligation of all. Domestic abuse is not just a personal issue, it's a societal problem that requires a collective solution. So, let's stand together against domestic abuse. Let's challenge the status quo, let's break the silence, and let's create a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. Each one of us has a role to play in ending domestic abuse. Stand up, speak out, and make a difference.